Hello and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Thursday, May the 11th edition of our video devotionals. We appreciate you being with us today. We're outside, beautiful day, and we're very late today from when we normally do our devotions. It's about 25 minutes till 5 in the afternoon, so we're late today. But a lot of things I needed to get done, some visits need to be made, and it just kind of kept putting it off until I said, you know what, man, we better get this thing in here. So we appreciate everybody who watches these, and we're thankful for you. And so we start a new book of the Bible today. First Chronicles chapters 1 and 2 was the reading for the day. And if you want to turn to chapter 2, we're going to be there momentarily, I think verse 7. And then, of course, we're going to read just a little bit from the Today book. Yesterday I didn't read from the date May the 10th. We're going to read May the 10th and May the 11th today. And it says here, on May the 10th, 1869, the date of the first transcontinental railroad, 1940, Churchill took over as the leader of England. That was certainly a different time period for those who lived during that period of time. May the 11th, it says Minnesota was admitted to the Union. So any of you that have connections to the state of Minnesota, then Minnesota's birthday is today, the state of Minnesota. And then it says in 1949, the United Nations admitted Israel. So we're going to stop right there. All right, so we're going to go here to First Chronicles chapter 2, and I believe it is verse number 7. And again, we appreciate everybody who watches these videos, and we're grateful for anybody that says this is a blessing to them and you're a blessing to us, and we'll just share those blessings together. All right, notice what it says here. Before we read, First Chronicles and Second Chronicles particularly is almost exclusively all about genealogies, and there's very little in the way of any description. There's a few here and there. We're going to look at one of those descriptions of an individual. But if you go back and even just look at it, chapters 1 and 2, and notice just everything is basically about so-and-so beget so-and-so beget so-and-so and all these connections. But notice here in chapter 2, verse 7, here's what it says. It says, "And the sons of Carmi, Achor, the troubler of Israel, who transgressed and the thing accursed." And you're thinking, now what is that? I think some of you remember from the book of Joshua, and I won't tell you the brief story here, but when you look at the word Achor, that's also spelled Achan. And I can't tell you exactly why it's spelled with an R versus an N, but it's the same person, Achan or Achor. All right. So when you look at this, we go back to a time period in which we think about Joshua and the defeat of the city of Jericho. And one of the mandates that was supposed to happen there was the fact that they were to go in and basically every bit of the spoils of that war or that victory there would go to God. You were not to keep any of it. Well, there was one man who says, you know what, I saw something and I'm going to keep it. We know that he kept a Babylonian garment, and he took some gold and he hid that. And then they go to this next city to go to defeat it, a much smaller city by the city of Ai. When they go there, they lose some men in that battle, and they basically run away like they've been like nothing. And I'm sure they thought, well, how could we defeat the great city of Jericho? And of course, it was a great miracle, the walls falling down and all of that. How could we do that? And then we send, just a few of us compared to the many, and we couldn't defeat these people. What happened? Well, God says, well, there's sin in the camp, as we use that terminology. You need to find out who the person is that's done something, and it's very grievous to me. So it end up they find out that certainly Achan or Achor had taken the garment and the gold, and they end up they execute him and his whole family. And here's what the Bible says, the description here. He was the troubler of Israel. So realize that what that one man did, it cost, I think it was 36 men their lives. So realize that 36 people lost their husbands or lost their loved one due to one man that just couldn't follow the simple command of, you don't take anything. The spoils of these go all to God. And it was interesting because the city of Ai, they could take all those spoils, and they could divide that, or at least they could divide it amongst themselves, a good portion of that. So my point is that what ends up being this description, he's the troubler of Israel, and he transgressed and the thing accursed. Realize when he took that which belonged to God like that, then he had a curse upon himself, and boy, was it ever a curse. That ends up costing him his life and his family's life. And how sad that you think about God just had a simple, here's what we're going to do. it wasn't good enough that they could defeat the great city of Jericho and say, man, let's give God the blessings and all this belongs to God. We'll give it to God. And yet God says, you're going to have a time when you're going to be able to profit from the spoils of war. But one man says, you know what, I'm going to do it differently this time. And he thought, man, he's going to hide it and he'd get away with it. But you never get away with it. But the sad thing, and I guess the practical point I want to make about this is that when you sin, you're not sinning alone. That's why we need to say to ourselves as we listen to this video, you know what, when I do wrong, then it affects other people. But also think about it in this way, that when you do right, you live right, then you are affecting others also. No man liveth unto himself, and no man dieth unto himself. So that means that the blessings that God gives you, others can benefit from that. And certainly in the case here where this man was cursed, and the people, it was just one man, and he took some gold, a little bit of gold for himself, and a garment, some garments or a garment, and God says, you know what, all that belonged to me, and you're taking that which belongs to God. Now we liken that, of course, to the tithe, and keeping God's money, and you're putting something upon yourself that's just, it hurts you and it hurts others, and you just don't want to do that. So the takeaway, of course, is what belongs to God, give it to God. Make sure God gets it. And God gives us plenty of blessings when we say, God, I'm going to give you what's yours, and God will certainly bless us for doing that, just simple obedience. So that's what we have for you today. So hopefully we can see you tomorrow, Lord willing, on Faithful Friday, and we'll end the work week of the school week. And so hopefully everybody today will have a good closing day for Thursday. Be safe and be healthy as best you can. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow, and have a great and wonderful afternoon and evening.